Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you are watching Save Today with Heather J. I am somebody who has lived her entire adult life paycheck to paycheck, being one life event away from financial crisis. Um, because of that, I have decided it is absolutely time to create and stick to a budget. And in the past, when I have tried to do that, it has been very difficult. So I've created this channel to share the journey with you. And so thank you for those of you who have chosen to join me. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. This is kind of a one-off video where it's not in the series. I am, as I have just said, a very new budgeter and new to the filming. And I realized when I set up my June budget, I have made several mistakes. And as those mistakes have begun to compound, I needed to address them. And one of them I already sort of addressed kind of quietly off camera without bringing any attention to it. And if it was just that one, I would have just left it. And we can get to that a little bit later on. But there have been several mistakes that have kind of come to my awareness, and I wanted to just address those with you. Number one, because correcting them within my budget is going to adjust what I've already said in previous videos with you. And for those of you who are eagle-eyed, you might catch that and have some questions as to why it wasn't addressed. But also, I want to address these because I'm human and I make mistakes, and I make a lot of them. And I don't want to portray some sort of perfect image where things, there is no adjustment, because that is just not how I am. I'm not a perfect human being, and I do make a lot of mistakes, especially in this journey as I'm learning so much and things are so new to me. So the first one I want to address, because there is definitely several within this budget, is just the colors that I've chosen to use in my budget. I'm sure some of you didn't notice it. In fact, I'm sure most of you didn't notice it, and those who did certainly wouldn't have questioned it. But you'll see I have these weird colorings in my calendar, and those actually do have significance for me. They're obviously not paycheck to paycheck. That doesn't make sense. What they are is they are the days that signify that last actual month and this next month. So this in the green for me is what's left of May within my June budget. And then this kind of peach color is what's June in this budget. And if we go back to the previous month, you'll see I had what was left of April in the yellow, and then what is May in the green. And then when I did my setups, I have those same two colors carrying over. That's just something for continuity I did for me. And then when I did the budget for this one, my May, again, I'll just pull that over, May finished out in green here, and that same color carried over to finish out my May here. And then I have a different color for June. And as we go forward, because I've already done all of the calendars that will fit in this book, as we go forward, we're going to see that June carries over its own color onto the next page, and then a different color starts. And I did that again for my own kind of visual presentation and to have some continuity. I wanted each month to carry over. I had chosen this set of pens. And I wanted to be able to use them all. And I didn't want to pick just one color that I used over and over and over again. I wanted to vary that up. But when I set up this month, I chose this green for May and this peach color for June. And that's what carried over there. But when I set up my colors here, I accidentally switched to this pink color. And I set up all of my pages that way. And I didn't realize it until after the fact that I had mixed up my colors. So later on, when my color's really supposed to be this pink color, I will end up switching that out to the peach color. Is that worth creating a whole video over? No, it's not, but it was one of the mistakes I caught, and I wanted to address that. Um, the biggest mistake that I caught has to do with this calendar here and how I set up my things that were due. As you'll recall, for me, the month of June is a 3 paycheck month, and that's because of where the first lies within that is this in this first check. It happens just before the second check. When I set up all of my things, they all happen on a certain date. And this U-Haul bill that happens on the 28th happens on the 28th of every month. So it happens on the 28th of May, and it happens on the 28th of June. And I don't have that written in here, this 197.98 that's supposed to happen there. So that caused some errors on my calendar, on my monthly setup, and on my paycheck number 3 setup. So I have to go through and adjust all of those. And so I have to put on here U-Haul 197.98. So I have actually, I'm paying for a total of, I have 2 boxes here, and I have 1 box here on the 16th, and again 2 boxes here. So I have to pay for a total of 5 individual U-Haul boxes in the month of June. So I needed to fix that. And that was going to cause a lot of problems for me. So if we get over here into my May paycheck number 1 setup, or the, not paycheck number 1, my monthly budget setup that has all 3 of those paychecks in it, you'll see with U-Haul, I just have the $293.97. And that's the 2 that are due on the 28th of May, and the one that is due the 16th of June. So I'm going to have to correct that here and have those 2 28ths on there. And that is going to change my payment for the whole month of U-Haul to, it was 97.33 times, 97.99 times 3. So it was 293.97. I have to now make that by 5, so it's now 498.95. I did my math wrong on the last one. Dang it. 498.95. So that is then going to change what my total fixed expenses for the entire month are of June. So my fixed expenses had been $1759.29. I now have to add $197.98 to that, which makes my fixed expenses now, I'm sorry for all this quiet air. I didn't want to make these corrections and just talk about them. I wanted to do them because I wanted you to see the impact of what it is I'm having to correct. So now my fixed expenses are $1,957.27. My flexible spending doesn't change in here, but my ending balance does. So once again, my fixed expenses here changes to $1,957.27, which means that I have the possibility of less left over at the end of my entire month. So if I do 3,420 minus, which is my estimated income, my estimated wages, and I take away my new fixed 1957.27, and I take away the same estimated flexible, I'm then left with only $372.73 at the end of this month as a possible. And then I do want my whiteout to be as least noticeable as possible, so I'm going to cover that up with that. Now, I have not filmed my paycheck number 3, but I do have that set up, and I'm just really quick. We'll go over that when that time happens, but really quick, I have to make the adjustment here from this $97.99 to, what is this again? I'm going to kind of keep this mostly covered up since we're not there yet. And again, if I do the one, nope. If I do $97.99 times 3, which is what's going to come out, then that's the $293.97. And then I will carry the fixed expenses change and my ending balance change off camera because I haven't filmed that video yet, and I don't want to kind of spoil that video by correcting that, but just know that those have to be corrected on this page as well. And that does make quite a difference for what is available at the end of the month for me. Then the other thing I wanted to address with this, as far as any errors, is when I went over my paycheck number 1 and in evaluating what I've done in May, I have realized that it is very difficult visually for me to know what these carryover numbers are. Let me get back into May, or into June. So that's July. Where am I at? Try this again, stumbling. It's hard for me to visualize what this means when I'm looking at it and when I'm speaking about it. So I've decided anywhere where I have more money than I thought I was going to have, I'm going to change that into green, and I'm going to use green going forward. I had already carried the negatives in the red because I definitely want that to be visible, and that's kind of traditional bookkeeping, is to have that be negative. But visually, I want to have my overages where there's extra money to be in green, so I know where I have extra and where I have negative. And so I'm just going to be changing that, and I won't do all of that on camera. I just wanted to let you know that that's a thing that I made a mistake, and I'm going to correct that. So as you see that going forward, you'll understand why. The biggest thing I needed to really address was the fact that I made this giant $300 error in setting up my monthly budget and how that carries over for us. It's very important that I not try and portray some idea of perfection. I don't want somebody out there to be thinking that somehow I am not making mistakes. Those need to be addressed. There's going to be a lot of mistakes. I am not a perfect human, and I'm certainly not a perfect budgeter, and I fully expect that even 2 years in, there's going to be mistakes. So that's it that I wanted to address for the errors I made within my budgeting. And again, for those of you who are familiar at this point, you know I have said I'm going to be going over a craft in the background, and I find it appropriate that in a video where I'm making mistakes, I'm going to be going over some of the mistakes I've made within my craft that I did. I had this month's craft is a project that my eldest granddaughter asked me to do. She picked out a heart-shaped pillow form and some fabric, and we made that. And if you have been following along, you will know that when I finally finished that pillow form and it was done, there were some things I wasn't happy about in that pillow. And at that point, I just was like, this is for a small child. She's going to be happy. I'm going to leave it. It's done. But I have time within my budget because I have another 2 weeks at this point before my June is over with, 2.5 weeks. And I'm done with the blanket and stuff. So I'm going to go and fix the errors that I saw in that pillow. For those of you who haven't followed along, I was very unhappy basically with how I had placed the zipper in that pillow form. It was poking out and far too visible. I had pom-pom trim on one side and not the other, so that didn't hide it. And I had the zipper pull in the middle of the zipper instead of down at the bottom, or in the middle of the pillow, instead of down at the bottom where it would be less visible. So I have decided that I'm going to fix the mistakes within that pillow as well. And so in that vein, I have taken apart the pillow form and I have removed that zipper. And I do have a small amount of the pom-pom trim left. And so I'm going to place that on this other side so that it sandwiches that zipper a little bit better. And then when I stitch the zipper in, initially I had sewn it right along this line here. And because of the extra gap that was visible here, that zipper really poked out and stood out. So when I go and resew that, I'm going to, number one, face it towards the bottom instead of the top. And I'm going to sew this seam so that it's higher up within this pom-pom instead of way down here in the lower trim. And so then that will, once it is sewn in, give me that pom-pom trim cover, and it will bring this zipper within that same line. Additionally, the other mistake was that in placing the pillow form into the cover last time, I actually tore the pillow form, and I felt that happen right at the end as I was getting that stuffed in there. So initially, my reason for having the zipper in there was so that they could take this out and wash the pillow cover as it got dirty, because the pillow form is not really washable. But in tearing that made it to where it was less likely for this pillow form to come out and have the washable, and therefore the need for the zipper in the first place. So now that I'm fixing that, I'm going to go ahead and put a patch over this and stitch that closed so that it doesn't continue to get worse. And I am likely going to use some of the linen fabric that I used in the lining of the laundry bag from my month of May to patch that. The material this is made out of is just an interfacing, a sew-on interfacing for machine applique, like when they put your stitch your name onto your work shirt or something like that. So I will be fixing those errors over the next couple of months, and that is all I wanted to do with this one-off video, was to address some of the errors I've made in my budgeting, not just for me, but for you guys as well. And then I felt it was appropriate that my fixing the errors in my stitching ended up also happening at the same time as this error video. So that is all I have for you guys today. I thank you for tuning in and watching me fumble along this journey. And I hope to see you in a couple of days with probably my week 4 spending check-in, or perhaps my paycheck number 3 setup, so that we can once again address those errors once that video has gone out. I will talk to you guys later. I thank you so much for joining me today. You have a wonderful evening now. Bye-bye.